Hello YouTubers and welcome to Homebrew Wild and Cheap. So today what I'm going to be doing is kind of follow on. I made an elderberry and apricot wine, part 1 basically, not long ago, for me. So basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using the pulp that's left over from the elderberry and apricot wine. I'm going to be putting all this pulp, which has already been used once, so hopefully it's got a milder flavour. So it's going to go in my pan, which I've just used. So that's basically 1 litre of pulpy water. Move that to one side. When I was out doing my elderberry wander, I also came across some apples. Freezer. So what I did with the apples is I took a cheese grater and grated them and then put it in my freezer. So there was already a cheeky kilo of these apples. So yummy! So as you can tell, we're going to be making a light wine. So this is basically half a kilo of grated apple. And here is another half a kilo of grated apple. If I can get them out of the freezer bags, should be able to. There we go. So just to add a little bit of extra flavour, I got given some pears. Now these are eating pears, but these are a couple of the small little ones, so this is another basically 300 grams of kind of apple material. Blending of using apples and pears is used in cider making, so it should be pretty nice. So again, I'm going to grate it for ease. Try not to grate my fingers. Too much. Yeah, too much. Lovely. And I'm going to add in the skins as well, extra flavour. And there are my 3 pears. And as you can tell, they're grated, so they do give off. Oh, that is beautiful. Those are very tasty pears. I can see why they're good for eating. Fortunately, I only used the ones that I wouldn't have eaten anyway, because they were too small, but they're still very juicy and sweet. So now what I need to do for this lovely sort of mix-up medley wine that we're going to be making is I'm going to add some water. Now I've boiled the kettle, and that's what I'm going to add in. Juice. So yeah, this is just over 1 litre of water. And because I want this wine to be kind of flashed, I'm going to be using heat to extract as much juice from all this apple pulp and pulp as possible. And hopefully this is going to give a very nice, light, sort of apple and elderberry-ish wine. The word being ish. So it's now on the heat, as you can see. I've got the pulps from the elderberry and the apricot, which have hopefully diminished in flavour. Then we've got the apples that I scrumped from a Cornish hedge, which is local. And I also got donated some pears from, funny enough, a local pear tree. I was told that they were very tasty, and I took a couple of the small ones and added them in. And they're very tasty, very juicy. So yeah, basically I'm going to let this come to a boil, and then I'm going to reduce it down for a simmer for about 2 or 3 minutes. It's just to break down all of the particles so I can release as much juice as I can. So yeah, I'll be back shortly. I don't need to do that. And now it's time to have a bit of fun. Yay! So, as you can tell, it's just all pulp, which is looking lovely. So yeah, we're going to have some fun. What I'm going to do to this, because it is basically a mishmash of random stuff. Apples, pears, elderberries, apricots. What more could you need? So I'm going to spice it, because I'm going to make this into a Christmas drink, so when you make mulled wine, you've got a base to work from. I'm also going to be blending it with an apple wine that I made. So it should work out rather nice. So these are mulled wine sachets, so I'm going to add 2 of these in. It's just for ease. And I also have an extra litre of boiled water to aid in the tea making process. if you don't happen to have access to the mulled wine spice, you can basically make your own with orange peel, nutmeg, clove, star anise, and of course cinnamon. So I've got myself a cinnamon stick because I like extra cinnamon, and in it goes. Lovely. I'm going to add in 3 cloves, mainly because this has already got some spices in. And last but not least, half a star of star anise. Oh, it smells good. And in she goes. Already it smells very good actually. It smells a bit like a strudel. I like strudel. So, right, I'm going to let this basically come up to a boil, and then, yeah, going to let it steep. Like a fine tea. It is now the next day. Yay! So, this is now cooled down completely. I've been to work, come back, feeling rather tired. So, first impressions of this. It smells really good. It really does. You can smell the apples, you can smell sort of like pears, and then you've got like the mulled wine smell and the extra cinnamon. Very, very tasty. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be brewing this in a bucket, mainly because I have a sterilised bucket to hand, and I haven't actually done it in a bucket, just to prove you can. So it is a sterilised clean bucket, and instead of using the strainer like I did the other day, I have went and sterilised with a bit of bleach and the boiling water my straining pillowcase, because it took forever the other day, and yeah, I don't have it today. So it is fairly straightforward. I am going to filter this into my lovely 1 gallon or 5 litre food grade container. So in goes all these lovely stuff, and even though it's using the pulp from the elderberry wine, there is still more than enough elderberry flavour to go around. So apart from pouring it absolutely everywhere, like on my face, but it smells really good. So yeah, basically what I'm going to do is I'm now going to basically lift this up and strain it. So straining took around 10 minutes, and what we ended up with is about half of this 5 litre tub filled. So that's about 2.5 litres of juice. So that's not bad. It is nicely spiced. Pull this off. Does smell quite nice, and it is a bit cloudy, but then again it's still fresh. It's still got particles and stuff in there. So what we're going to be doing is adding the sugar to it. So unlike normal, when I add a lot of sugar, slash a cheeky kilo, I'm only going to be adding in half a kilo, 500 grams of sugar. This is because I'm going to want it about 5%, because, well, if I'm using it for mulling, it doesn't really matter because I'm going to be adding brandy in, and I always add some apple wine. So this is just kind of a flavouring, little hint. And maybe at Christmas, you know, you can have a little glass with your dinner, and you don't have to feel bad because it's only 5%. So I need roughly 500 grams. So I've got my trusty old measuring can with already 300 in there. So 200 is like 2/3 of this can, somewhere around there. And a tad more. There we go, 2/3 of that can. And I haven't put it directly in, even though I could and just stir it round, but yeah, I don't want to. So I've got 1.5 litres of boiled water, so I'm going to put in half a litre of that. So there we go. What do you know? Just over half a litre. And I'm going to grab my stirry spoon. It is clean, but the boiled water will definitely make this sterilised. So in this goes. And we're just going to stir it to dissolve in the sugars, since you can't really close the lid and shake the bucket. Doesn't quite have the same effect, I don't think. More potential for juice everywhere. So there we go. And that was surprisingly easy to dissolve. So in this goes. And that should be our sugar. Now a bit more cold water. So I'll just get that from the tap. And yep, just top it up to about the 5 litre mark, which is somewhere around this rim here. If you're using a demijohn, obviously top it up to your usual place. So there we go. So in theory, we should be able to test this with a hydrometer, which I happen to have here. It's been pre-sterilised and it's just sitting in water. You double check, it is just water. Sometimes I forget. So let's pop it in. Ooh, it was close to touching all the way to the bottom. Okay. So it says here that it was 6%, which worked out at, oh, maths, was 1.038. Yep, that's right. Double checking. So there we go, it has the potential alcohol of 6%. So I suppose we should prepare this. And as usual, I have bought everything apart from the one thing I need, which is a spoon. Just a cheeky teaspoon. We shouldn't really need that much, but I just want to make sure that this ferments. And sprinkle it in. And I'm going to be using a little bit of pectolase. If you hadn't noticed, a lot of people add in their pectolase once the wine is finished or while it's steeping, and I add it as soon as I add the yeast. And that's because I think it could just be my pectolase enzyme, maybe it's slightly weird, but if I use the pectolase before I add in my yeast, it kind of goes funny and kind of makes, well, almost off, I would class as off. So if I add it in with the yeast, it seems to be fine because it works at the same time. And then I am going to be using my express wine yeast compound. I don't need this to be fancy, it's going to be more for flavour and, you know, a bit of novelty. You can always boost it up with a bit of rum. So in goes a cheeky spoon of that. And that is how simple it is to make, hopefully, a nice Christmas, easy drinking mulled wine from basically the scrap that we had left over from 2 different videos. Well, one video and one random find. So this is pretty cool. So basically you put on the lid all the way, apart from one end where you just pop it up. It's enough so once the yeast starts fermenting away, the gas can escape and it won't explode. And yeah, that was surprisingly easy. So I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. It's going to be ready for Christmas, because it's Christmas mulled wine. So yeah, I will catch you in the part 2 for this, where we're going to use it for drinking. Hey!